Have you ever stopped to think about the hidden rules that are running your life? I'm not talking about laws in a book, but the ones buried so deep in your mind you don't even know they're there. Well, today, we're going to pull back the curtain on a staggering piece of code that's running in your brain right now, an unconscious algorithm that dictates how you speak every single day.
Okay, so let's just dive right in with a little experiment. I'm going to try to read your mind. I know, it sounds impossible, but just stick with me here, because what this little trick reveals about the hidden architecture of your own brain is, well, it's genuinely fascinating.
So here's the deal. I'm going to give you a really simple task. All you have to do is arrange a few words, but I'm willing to bet that I already know exactly what you're going to say. Ready?
First up, I want you to picture a house. Now, describe it using these three words: green, old, and big. Go on, just say it out loud, or even in your head. What's the natural order that pops into your mind? You got it? Good.
All right, let's do one more. For this second house, use these three adjectives: brick, square, and unusual. Again, what's the natural way to say that? Take a second. So, how'd I do? Did I read your mind? I am almost certain you said the big old green house for the first one and the unusual square brick house for the second. You know, it just feels wrong, almost physically uncomfortable to say the green big old house or the brick unusual square house. The real question is, why? That feeling of rightness you just had, that's not an accident. And it's not just your personal preference either. Nope. It's a completely unspoken, universal pattern that native English speakers follow without ever being taught it.
Seriously, how did you do that? No one ever sat you down in school and gave you a lesson on the correct order for adjectives. You've just been absorbing this pattern from birth, applying it flawlessly your entire life. It's like a piece of grammatical software you didn't even know was installed in your brain.
This is not a coincidence. It is a deeply ingrained, unwritten rule of the English language. And it's so fundamental that when someone gets it wrong, it immediately sounds off. You know, it sounds foreign to our ears, even if we can't explain exactly why. So what is this secret code you've been using all along? Well, you might want to prepare yourself because the formal rule is, to put it mildly, comically complicated. The author Mark Forsyth puts it very bluntly in his book, The Elements of Eloquence. He says adjectives absolutely have to be in a very specific order. There's no negotiation here. It's basically a linguistic law that you've been obeying perfectly your whole life.
And here it is. Welcome to what's known as the Royal Order of Adjectives. Now, what's really incredible about this is how it perfectly explains our little experiment from earlier. For house number 1, you put big, that's size, then old, that's age, then green, that's color. See, it follows the order perfectly. And for the second house, you said unusual, opinion, then square, shape, and then brick, material. Again, a perfect match. This staggering, multi-step rule is something your brain just does in a split second.
Okay, so we have this absolute unbreakable rule. Case closed, right? Well, this is language we're talking about, and rules are often made to be broken. It turns out there are some pretty famous rebels out there.
Let's look at a classic. According to our royal order, you should always put opinion, like strange, before size, like long. So technically, we should all be saying a strange long trip. But that's not what the Grateful Dead's saying, is it?
Of course, the iconic lyric is, "What a long, strange trip it's been." They put size before opinion, totally breaking the rule. And what's truly mind-boggling here is that this isn't just some quirky lyric. Turns out this wrong word order, long, strange, has actually been the dominant one in writing since the 19th century. The rebellion is older than the rule itself.
And it's not just them. Bob Dylan sings about a long, lonesome road. Again, putting size before opinion. And you know what? We all break the rule when we want to emphasize something. If you have 2 old felt hats, you don't say, "I'll take the lovely old green felt hat." You say, "I'll take the green old felt hat," because you're putting the most important piece of information first. So the point is, even this deep-seated rule can be bent for style and clarity. So at this point, you're probably thinking, okay, this is incredibly confusing. There's a secret rule, and there are secret exceptions to the rule. It's a lot. But don't worry, there's actually a much more intuitive way to think about all of this. Is there an easier way? Thankfully, yes there is. A professor named Keith Foles came up with a beautifully simple theory that acts like a mental shortcut, a kind of hack that explains why we do this without needing to memorize that huge, complicated list.
So here's the core idea. The closer an adjective is to being an actual, concrete noun, a thing, the closer you put it to the noun it's describing. Just think of it like a scale, from most abstract to most concrete. The most concrete, the most nouny, gets to be right next to the noun.
And this just illustrates the whole idea brilliantly. Let's take the phrase, lovely old green felt hat. The noun, of course, is hat. So what's the most noun-like adjective here? Felt. Felt is literally a material, a thing. It goes right next to the hat. What's next? Green. Green is a color, sure, but it's also a noun, like the color green. Next up is old, which can be a noun, like in the days of old, but it's less common. And what's left? Lovely. That's almost purely an opinion. It's rarely ever a noun. So the order just naturally becomes lovely, old, green, felt, hat. It works perfectly, no complicated rules needed.
Right? Whew, I know, it's a lot to process. But that simple noun-like theory is just a wonderfully elegant key that unlocks the whole puzzle. It just feels right.
So let's zoom out. What does this all really mean? This whole journey into the secret life of adjectives is so much more than a grammar lesson. It's a window into the incredible, staggering processing power of the human mind.
The big takeaway here is that your brain is constantly and silently running these incredibly complex algorithms. You effortlessly navigate these intricate systems of rules and exceptions and even the social context for breaking those rules, all without any conscious thought. It's just a powerful reminder of the hidden genius that's embedded in the very language we use to think.
And that leads us to a final, pretty provocative thought. If a rule this complex and this hidden is running something as simple as the order of a few words, what other invisible algorithms, what other secret patterns are shaping your decisions, your perceptions, and your reality at this very moment? What else do you know that you are never, ever taught?